Randall, let's talk about this is, I mean, it's the scenes of these campuses. I mean, they're canceling commencements. These are, in so many of these, I'll note, some of these college kids, seniors who are losing their college commencements are the same ones who lost their high school commencements because of COVID, because it was 4 years ago in 2020. So that is really tough for these kids. Our heart goes certainly to them. Tell us more, though, with this scenes of tumult as the backdrop. Tell us more about the findings of your study here of the list and just what people are looking for now as an alternative.
Well, it's funny because the Ivy League has served a great purpose to the U.S. for over 300 years. Harvard's pushing 400 years old. Yale's over 300. UPenn's almost 300 years old. It's been a sorter, and a beacon of meritocracy, really for white men, but now increasingly over the past few decades for everybody, where they say, hey, we're going to do the job of selecting the best and the brightest, the highest achievers. We're going to do a great job educating them. And then the employers can say, okay, great, check. Columbia, where you went, Penn, where I went, check, check, check. And the employers are saying that's not true anymore. They've forfeited that, in part because the admissions officers have admittedly said, we don't really want well-rounded students anymore. They say that. They say we want a well-rounded class of specialists. Everybody who's like, if you're an Olympic swimmer or you're an oboe player, they want exceptionalness in one area. But when you have a class of special, as opposed to a class where people are hardworking, super achieving. I mean, you see the same thing when they abolished, test scores. Test scores were actually a great way for underrepresented kids to get to these schools because they can show that they can achieve at the highest level. Now it's a crapshoot. And I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is a manifestation of that, which is you've got these campuses with, again, it's not the students' fault, it's the administrators' fault, but they've amalgamated classes at the Ivies where it's not necessarily about the highest achieving, it's about special, and special sometimes means, so you can get entitled or people who aren't necessarily using critical thinking. They're just feeling, I feel this way and I'm special. And I think that's what the employers are reacting to.
And they're really seeing it. Michael Beschloss, you can take the next question for George.
Yeah. Well, I keep on thinking, George, you remember how William F. Buckley once said that he would rather have America governed by the first 1,000 names in the Cambridge, Massachusetts phone book than the members of the Harvard faculty. And just looking at this through the political lens, presidential election is a year from next week. It's going to seem like a year, 6 months from next week. Are we in a situation where this is teeing it up for Donald Trump to say, you Americans have been led by an out-of-touch elite that has been educated in places like Harvard and Columbia and Penn that are doing things that sound strange and out of the mainstream? Is this an advertisement to his voters that essentially says, elect Trump, throw out the civil service, and throw out all these people who have been misgoverning you for decades?
Look, Michael, I was 8 years old in 1968. It was a kind of formative political experience for me as a little kid. And we all know what happened that summer in Chicago when there were street battles between activists, anti-war demonstrators, and the Chicago cops. And that led pretty directly to, among other things, to Richard Nixon getting elected. Of course, Donald Trump and the Republican Party are going to take advantage of anything that appears like chaos or an indulgence of chaos on the part of Democrats. So I think what we're seeing now on campus is probably a prelude to what we're going to see in Chicago, where the Democrats are going to have their convention again, I think for the first time since '68, as if they just couldn't resist returning to the scene of the crime this summer. And I don't think it's going to be a scene that will help them to show that Joe Biden's in control of the country. And that's sort of been a recurring Republican attack, that the country and the world are out of control and he's too old and feeble to keep them under control. Can I say one thing about the demonstrators, which is I think they properly were horrified by the number of deaths of civilians in Gaza. And when they called for a ceasefire and peace, they seem to be calling for an end to this suffering. But that has shifted to calling for an end to Zionism. which is essentially an end to Israel. And in Arabic, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, is actually Palestine shall be Arab. I don't know if the students know that, but it's a call for the elimination of Israel. How is it that students have perhaps unwittingly embraced the ideology of Hamas? I think it's because they have been trained and educated in an atmosphere where there really is only one truth. And that truth is that there are oppressors and there are oppressed. White Jewish Israelis, as they see it, are the oppressors. Non-white Arab Palestinians are the oppressed. And that's the end of the story. It's as if Israel's the last place where post-colonial theory can go to find oppressors and victims. And so it becomes a very simple matter. And the whole complicated history of those two people is erased.
No, it's 3,000 years of history erased. And yeah, they do genocidal chants from the river to the sea. They've adopted Hamas's ideology instead of again, protesting the deaths, the civilian deaths in Gaza. It's moved in that direction, holding up signs, talking about the final solution, saying no two states, wanting to go back to 48. It could go on and on, Rev, but you know, this extremism, this calling on college campuses for the elimination of Israel, the chanting, the basically adopting Hamas's ideology with so many in so many parts of these protests leads up. Again, we talked about 1968. Leads up to the protests in 1968, and it wasn't just white conservatives in Doraville, Georgia, watching Walter Cronkite in 1968, going, "What the hell's going on out there?" I'm sure you can attest to the fact that there are a lot of people of color going, wait, why are these elites on college campuses taking over presidents' offices? Why are they tearing up? And so here we are, these same people that helped elect Richard Nixon over Vietnam and helped keep the war going for 5 more years. For 5 more years. They're doing the same thing now on the faculty of a lot of these elite Ivies. And they're helping Donald Trump. They're going to elect Donald Trump if they keep this up. They're going to elect Donald Trump if they continue stirring this chaos. And if they don't learn from the lessons of 68, if they don't start acting like adults, Rev.
No, I absolutely agree, because I remember in 1968, I was 13 going on 14 years old, but I had just became youth director of Operation Breadbasket, New York's chapter. Dr. King had started that movement. Martin Luther King, April 4th, 67, had come out against the war in Vietnam. He was killed a year later. And in the marches against the war, he said we must do what we must do for the moral question of killing Vietnamese children, whatever he opposed, and we all opposed in terms of the war. But when people started waving North Vietnam banners and Ho Chi Minh pictures, they denounced that. Dr. King said, wait a minute, we're not here to support Ho Chi Minh, we're here to support peace. And in the battles, in the fights, a guy who lost for president in 1960, went home to California and lost for governor of California, was able to come through the middle with law and order, Richard Nixon, and win. And what I raised to a lot of those that I agree with on it is an atrocity what is going on in Gaza. It is absolutely wrong what Netanyahu is doing. But are we fighting that, or are we being hijacked by people that are saying Hamas, who did the same thing to Israeli children, is what we're about? And I think, at least, the thing that we must address is the core reason these students started this, and the hijackers now that have taken it somewhere else, that are now praising people who are doing exactly what we're supposed to be denouncing, and losing the moral principle of what the protests about what Netanyahu was doing in Gaza in the first place.